Good morning, everyone. Hello, hello. Oh, thanks, House. Hi. Right. Apologies for the massive, great mic in the middle of shot here. It's rather windy here on the river. Good day to Madgus Games. How you doing? Hey, Bendy Beast. How are you? Roger. Adam Herbert. Nice to see you. Hello, you all. Right. Let's get started. First off, how am I going to start? I'd like to start with a massive shout out to one of my oldest friends, Ollie. Ollie and his lovely wife, Emily, have been some of my most loyal friends. I love you both dearly, going through tough times at the moment. This live lesson today is dedicated to the pair of you. I love you both very, very dearly. We've also got a whole bunch of shout-outs to start off with. So, James Macaulay, his 9th birthday. Lucas, his 10th. Shout-out to Bishop's Perrown C of E School. Lexi is 9 this week. Hamish has his 8th birthday today, and since he can't have a party with his friend, he wants to camp out in the garden with his camera and take pictures of nighttime wildlife. Hamish, what a great way to spend your birthday. Can you wish my big brother Sam Newcomb a very happy 14th birthday? For Wednesday, he loves all nature except horseflies. Well, he's there with me on that one, and is a volunteer at Rutland Osprey Project. Well, good for you. That's absolutely brilliant, Sam. That's from Alex, age 10. Happy 8th birthday to Ava. To Ellis, his 8th birthday. A shout out to Leah Snow Leopard from Sheffield. I really hope that is your real name, Leah. To Aidan, Ethan and Mark, the massive legend without which none of this would be possible. Now, this question is a really good one. It starts off with, it's my son Jack's birthday on Thursday. He will be 7. Well, happy birthday to Jack. And he would like to know, are one-horned rhinos endangered? What can we do to save them? Rhinos are my favourite animal. So, Jack, I could pretend that because of your birthday, I'm theming this entire session around endangered. That would be a massive lie, but it is going to be a good session for you because we're starting off with that exact animal, with the one-horned rhino. So I've been talking all week about the fact that we are going to show you some special footage here today, and it is of the Javan rhino. So, a couple of years ago, a good friend of mine, Toby Nowlan, who is an incredibly talented young man, told me that he had a big project to go and try and film Javan rhinos. And I told him, quite frankly, that I thought he was insane. It is the most endangered large mammal on the planet. There are probably only 50 or 60 of them left. And I've been to Ujong Kulong, the tiny, tiny park, which is the only place in Java where they occur in the whole world, and met guards who had lived there for 2 years and never seen one. Toby, however, is a man of great ambition. So he went out there with a camera and he got some footage which is absolutely, without doubt, the best that's ever been seen of this incredible animal. And I have the great privilege of premiering that with you all here today. So this is an animal that very, very few people alive have ever seen with their eyes. And Toby has managed to bring back these stunning, glorious shots of them. He's given me loads and loads of shots. This is one that I just wanted to share with you of a Javan rhino, one of the most endangered creatures on the planet, just hanging out in a pool, blinking its eyes as the water bubbles around it with rain, wallowing. So essentially what it's doing is probably cooling down. Java is a very hot and humid place. And as we get towards, this is playing a little bit slow actually, it might just be, it's too high quality, Toby, that's the problem, it's too high quality a shot for my system to live up to. But Toby has managed to get both this and lots of other amazing shots of this animal, which many people believed was already functionally extinct. Certainly it is right on the brink. It is an animal that is in real danger and very, very much needs our help, as do all of the other species of rhino. And the reason for that is that horn. So it's not particularly big, particularly on this Javan one-horned rhino, but it can be quite substantial on others. On the white rhinos, it could be 1 meter in length. And that horn is the most expensive material, biological material in the world. It is worth more by weight than gold. And because of that, because it's worth more than weight by gold, it's highly sought after, particularly by people in Indochina, in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, also in China as well, where it has many supposed cures, none of which really seem to work, but also it's crumbled up into cocktails as a sort of symbol of over-the-top luxury and wealth. And because of that, these animals are right on the brink of extinction. Toby, however, has headed out to Ujong and he's brought back some remarkable images of this animal. This is one of it just standing, gazing down the camera at an ancient looking eyeball. It looks more like something you'd expect to see on a dinosaur than on a living animal today. And because of Toby's work, we decided to theme today's live Q and A all on endangered animals. So I want to keep it as light and positive as possible. I had loads and loads of questions that have come in. If you want to find out more about Toby's... Oh my God, I've got a bunch of ducklings behind me. Check that out. I'm going to get out of the way so you can see. How cute is that? That is a raft of tiny ducklings. I should just try and get the camera up, but if I do this, I'm probably going to lose it. Look at them go! Go, little fellas! That is a bunch of ducklings that are, I would guess, a week old. Certainly no more than that. Well, that's a nice way to start the show, isn't it? I said I wanted to keep it light, keep it fluffy, keep it cute and cuddly. You don't get better than having a bunch of ducklings paddle past behind you. Okay. Yes, I was just saying, if you want to find out more about Toby's project, he's just set up a website, tobynowlan.com. He has also received an award, the SES Scientific Explorers Society Award, which has given him a grant to go back out and try and film more of this very, very endangered animal. And just to drop it in there, the SES have also this year given me the Explorer of the Year award, which has nothing to do with why I'm talking about it right now. Okay, let's get on to another question. So Logan, a very happy 8th birthday. He is an animal and dinosaur lover like you. And his question is, are there any animals that were on the endangered list who are no longer classed as endangered due to conservation work? There are, yes, there's quite a few actually. The one that springs to mind most would probably be the Californian condor. That is just a remarkable recovery story. That was an animal that was as good as gone. The few that were remaining were taken into captivity and were put into a captive breeding program, and they have made a remarkable recovery. I mean, they're still critically endangered, but they're an animal that I think now has about 400 left in the wild. So they're not gone. They're here. They're making a recovery thanks to human efforts. And so they're very definitely a good news story. There's also the golden lion tamarint. So again, that was an animal that was pretty much on the brink of extinction and has made a real recovery thanks to conservation efforts. And my favourite animal, the wolf. So in North America, due to human hunting, they went down to a few hundred animals from having there been as many as 2 million before Westerns turned up in North America, down to a few hundred, but now they have made an increase to several thousand, and that's entirely down to someone there saying they saw a condor. Absolutely amazing. Can I find out who that is? How many Amur leopards are left? That's another. Harriet Louise Simon says they saw a condor. Well, amazing, and that is obviously a sign of how well that reintroduction effort worked. So Izzy from Suffolk wants to know, what are the main factors for species becoming endangered, and what proportion of these factors are non-anthropogenic? That's a bit of a mouthful. Anthropogenic means of human cause, so non-anthropogenic is natural. So how many natural causes are causing extinction? So I should say that until recently, all extinctions were caused by non-human means, until the last couple of 100 years, really. Well, actually, no, you could go back further than that, because things like elephant birds in Madagascar were probably made extinct by us as human beings. But recent human history, we have been the primary cause of all extinctions. But 99% of animals that have ever existed on the planet are not here now, and they've gone extinct due to things like asteroid strikes or massive periods of volcanism when the skies have just been blacked out by volcanic smoke all over the entire planet, or climate change. Climate change has been implicated in things like the end Permian extinction, which wiped out well over 90% of species on Earth. So until recently, all extinctions were caused by natural means. What else have we got here? Ollie and Harry love nature and adventures, and Harry would like to know why only big, cute, endangered animals seem to get all the attention, and what can we do to raise the awareness of smaller endangered animals and plants. Yes, Harry! I love the way you're thinking, sir. You are very, very much on the same mindset as me. If you'd like to find out more, I would suggest going to buglife.org.uk. It's a charity that I've been lucky enough to be involved with for many years now. They are amazing, and they're dealing with the little things that rule the world, many of which have incredible challenges, and you could be a part of their better future. Beth Haycock says, "Hi Steve, James who's 10 would like to know if any animals have been thought to be extinct but later found out there was some living in the wild still. Me and his dad thinks it's an ace question." Well, it is an ace question. Thanks for your weekly broadcasts. James loves them, but it does mean I had liquid suet all over my kitchen last Wednesday. Beth, my sincere apologies. I'm very sorry about that. To any of you who don't know what that means, I was advising people how to make fat balls last weekend to feed birds, and it did involve some very, very messy melting of suet. I'm sorry about your kitchen. Yeah, so, okay, my favourite story about an animal that was believed to be extinct and came back is in one of my favourite books by a guy called Tim Flannery, an Australian biologist who's a genius. And in this book, he goes back to New Guinea and he rediscovers the Bulmer's fruit bat abseiling down into a cave, which turns out to be a place where they had been for many years, having been believed to be extinct. They have remarkable, unique dentition. From memory, I think they're missing their front 2 teeth or something. And so he rediscovered them many years after they were believed to be extinct. It has happened many other times, but seriously, read that book. It's called Throw Him Wayleg by Tim Flannery, and it's absolutely brilliant. Quiet Spy says, "I have a spider on my shoulder." I am not falling for that, sir, but I am really, really desperate to have a look now. I'm gonna not look. I'm not gonna look. What else have we got? Someone's saying, what can we do to help the Javan rhino? So it's a massive, massive question, and all the rhino species are in big trouble because of the trade in their horn. One of the best things you can do is to get involved with some of the conservation organisations that are doing massive amounts to try and protect them. There's lots and lots of Save the Rhinos is an obvious one to go for. WWF are doing lots for rhinos as well, and get involved with them. Raise money for them, and eventually what we're going to try and do is get politicians on our side to try and change law, try and change legislation to try and bring down the trade in rhino horn. I've got loads and loads of people asking what is the most endangered animal in the world. So many people asking that question. Joanna Arnile asking that. I've got Lucy asking that. Jane Gardner asking that. Lulu, we've got Emily Sturt asking that. Reese Bennett. All asking what the most endangered animal in the world is. So difficult to know. There are different most endangered animals in all the different categories of animals. I would say that the number one resource to find out about endangered animals is IUCN and the Red List. So the IUCN's Red List categorises animals, how endangered they might be, and gives you a sense of how many might be left in the wild. We have Toby from Swindon says, "The pangolin is my all-time favourite animal, and I've been researching their numbers," and he wants to know if their numbers might recover if they're left alone. And Alfie, who's aged 11, also did a big school project educating people on pangolins. That's brilliant, really, really good news. And projects like that can have a massive, massive impact. Teachers learn new things too. Of course they did. How many pangolins are left in the wild, and do you think coronavirus was spread by pangolins? Okay, so how many pangolins there are in the wild is a question which is impossible for us to answer. There are several different species that are spread through Asia and Africa. They are the most traded animal on the planet. Some sources suggest that as many as 1 million of them are being traded every single year. I've been working professionally with wildlife for 20 years, and I have seen 2 pangolins in my life. They weren't particularly common to begin with, and now their numbers are just being persecuted at an extraordinary rate. And the trade in pangolin is driving their extinction. It's going to be really, really hard to make sure that we can keep pangolin alive on this planet. And they're such an unusual, weird, bizarre, unique animal that we have to do everything we can to try and protect them. They have been implicated in the beginning of coronavirus. It is not because they are wandering into towns and cities and spreading a disease, but because they are being traded alongside other animals like bats. And that is creating a very unusual environment where zoonotic diseases, like the coronaviruses, can occur. We're not 100% sure yet, but they have, as I said, been implicated in the spread of coronavirus. So we have George and Erin, 8 and 6, would like to know currently what is the most endangered bird. So the kind of poster child of conservation when it comes to birds is the ivory-billed woodpecker, which is an American bird, which is often said to be the most endangered, but it's not been seen for a long time, and in all probability, it is already extinct. What's quite interesting is seeing how populations of birds in this country are changing dramatically, so that now a lot of the birds that we might consider to be super common are actually dwindling massively. So if you look at the RSPB's website, they'll tell you that obviously, birds like the hen harrier are down to just a few animals, but things like skylarks, nightingales, grey partridges, tree and house sparrows, song and missel thrushes, whimbrels, curlews, lapwings, the kind of birds that we think of as being an integral part of the British countryside are massively on the wane, on the decrease. And a lot of that is down to a change in farming practices. It's down to an increase in use of various kinds of pesticides and monoculture in how we use our farmland. But again, it's something that we need to switch onto. Getting involved with an organisation like the RSPB is something that all of us can do, because there's always an RSPB unit on your local patch, and you might be able to do something practical to help out with your own local bird life. Here's a great question. So, Lewis, who's, I'm not sure if that's Lewis or Louis, I apologise if I got that wrong, aged 6, asks, do you think the reintroduction of red kites into England has had a detrimental effect on other birds of prey native to the country? Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is that last bit, native to the country. Red kites are native to England. They are a part of our native wildlife. They were really super common throughout the Middle Ages. They were almost like our native vulture, and they were a bird that did a great job of scavenging in the streets of our towns and cities and clearing up decaying, rotting corpses. But then all of a sudden, the tide changed and the attitude towards them kind of got more negative, and so they were persecuted almost to extinction. So they have been brought back, and one of the biggest and most successful reintroductions was right here, no more than a few miles away from where I'm sat right now. And now, everywhere you look, there are red kites. I'm looking behind me right now. I can't see anywhere. Well, not everywhere you look, but a lot of places that you look, there are red kites in this part of the world. But that doesn't mean that they're super common anymore. What it means is that they're very noticeable. I always say that red kites are super conspicuous, and that's because they're always airborne. They're always flying. They've got this big wingspan, this classic flight pattern, a whistling call, which means that you notice them if they're around. There are about 1,800 pairs of red kites in England now, which is amazing. From next to nothing to have got up to 1,800 is brilliant, but there are 52,000 pairs of kestrels, there are 35,000 pairs of sparrowhawks, and about 80 to 300,000 buzzards. It's just that you don't notice them as much. They're not quite as conspicuous. Okay, right, I'm going to take a little break from endangered stuff just for a second and bring you up to date on what's been happening on my patch. So the swans, well, the female swan is on the nest. She's not moving very much, so I'm not going to throw to any footage of her. But what I do want to show you is a new nest that I've got set up, which is of my local swallows. So this is a swallow sat on the antenna on the radio, the TV antenna just above me right now. They arrived a couple of weeks ago, and they're nesting underneath my dock, so you can see them flying in and out from underneath my dock right now. So what I did was I watched very carefully. I saw where they were flying in and where they were flying out, and eventually I ducked in underneath the dock when they were off foraging for food. Knew I didn't have very long to do it, so I ducked in with a camera in my hand, and I whacked it onto a beam right alongside where they were building their nest. They build this kind of cup of of basically mud and spit, which they're going to be nesting in. I whacked in the camera and I got this. So this is one of our pair of swallows, and he at the moment is preening. I say he, actually it's probably she. She does the majority of the work. The female does the majority of the work. But this is underneath the dock where Helen and I, put in the kayaks and the rowboats and stuff. And at the back there, that is where they're building their nest. So I'm really hoping that over the next few weeks, I'm going to be able to show you footage of them actually having their eggs and the youngsters, and eventually those youngsters being fed and fledging. I will be able to show you that stuff live as well. I'm not going to do it now because, to be frank, there's not much happening. They're off foraging somewhere. What else can I show you? Well, this week has been amazing on the river. It kind of feels like spring has properly sprung here. The mayflies are erupting out of the water in incredible numbers, and towards the end of the day in golden light, you just see these extraordinary, almost plagues of mayflies, and all the other creatures are coming in to feed on them. The swallows, the swifts, we might even potentially see a hobby. Even the red kites on the wing are feeding on them. And the woodlands around here are still in bloom with bluebells. Thank you so much to Will Nickel for sending in these wonderful, wonderful shots. These carpets of bluebells, which are just on their way out now, but seriously, wandering in a British woodland right now is one of the very, very best things that you can do, because they are absolutely stunning and staggering, and kind of proof that what we have here in this country is, on a wildlife level, equal to anywhere else on the planet. Now, I'm getting lots and lots of questions in about our badgers. So anyone who've been watching these live Q and A's for the last few weeks will know that I've got cameras on the local badger sets, and that we have a family of badgers who've been super, super active around the set. We have the mum, the dad, and the cubs, Wind and Willow. That's the Marlow donkey, the train going by behind me. You might hear that going past. I kind of love that train. It's really awesome. And so we've been watching how those cubs are basically developing, lots and lots of playing, lots of play fighting, and they are now starting to come out in the day. So this is my camera trap. You can see a roe deer there. This is a young male roe deer. It's not the one I've been showing you over the last couple of weeks that's been chasing around another female. I can tell because the antlers are much smaller and spikier. This is an immature animal, but it's wandering past the entrance to our badger set, or the main entrance to our badger set. And look at this. The badgers are starting to come out now in broad daylight, and it's not just the adults, it's also this little cub as well, nosing around into the outdoors and just having a little sniff around. Until now, the cubs have only been out at night. However, going back through the footage, I've been super, super concerned because there has only been one cub, and I'd already got quite attached to our two little cubs, Wind and Willow, and there's a lot of animals lost in this first year of life, so I was really, really starting to get sad. And then I saw this video with the two of them together. Thank goodness. I would have been absolutely devastated if we'd lost one of our cubs so soon. I've got to say that they still have really challenging times ahead for the both of them, but fingers crossed, there's lots and lots of good stuff to eat in the fields around where they are, so hopefully they will continue doing good. Right, let's go to a few shout outs. Liam sponsors snow leopards through the WWF, and Sophia Amur leopards. Thank you both very, very much. That is absolutely brilliant. Matthew 11, how many tigers are left in the wild? Usually thought to be between 3,000 and 5,000. As I'm sure all of you will know, because it's been massively in the media recently, there are more tigers in captivity in America than there are in the wild in the world, which is something that just absolutely blows my mind. Ariotakas are whales in danger, and do whales sleep? Some species of whales are very much endangered, and the way that they sleep is they shut down half of their brain, which goes to sleep, while the other half of their brain takes care of simple motor functions like swimming. Alice at 8 asks, why do lizards lick their eyeballs? Well, that's geckos. It's because they don't have any eyelids, so it's a good way of cleaning their eyeballs. Joe Louis Barry says, my son ate a fly and said, ew, June bugs taste better. maybe you should need to work on their diet. Seriously, feed him something a little bit nicer, because if he's eating insects, then he's obviously hungry. What else have we got? Someone saying, tell me a joke. No! Seriously, whenever someone says that to you, every single joke just disappears out of your head, doesn't it? We have hi from Rory in Dublin. Lots and lots of people sending in some great questions. We have Barney in Cornwall. It's his 9th birthday. A massive shout also to Heather. Neve Bateman. It's her 7th birthday. Hello, Neve. How are you? And a massive shout out to all the staff at Knipersley First School. I hope I've said that right. Probably totally wrong, but yeah, hi to all of you anyway. And a massive hi to Ruth Glover and all of the kids at Haymore School. Thank you so much to all the staff of that school for carrying on working, and to all of the staff of schools that are carrying on working in these tricky times. Lizzie and Harry, who are aged 6 and 4, love these live lessons, and they have 2 questions. So that's a bit greedy, isn't it? I'll let it slide. We have a small woodland garden in Devon and wonder what we can do to encourage wildlife. And we have a lot of ticks. How can we encourage wildlife but discourage ticks? We hate ticks. Yeah, that's a tricky one. So, yeah, the thing that's going to be bringing the ticks into the garden is probably the wildlife, particularly deer. Well, any warm-blooded mammal can be a vector for ticks to be brought into your garden. I would say keep a corner of your garden wild and keep that for the wildlife, and then the rest of it you can have fairly well manicured as you would normally. Then in terms of keeping the ticks away, make sure you wear long trousers, tuck your socks into your trousers, and if you do go outside and you're wading through long grass for a long period of time, come back and check yourself, because ticks are pretty nasty and they do spread some horrible diseases, so it's worth making sure that you've not got any on you. Daniel, who's 10 in Witney, Oxfordshire, asks how many species of endangered animals are there. Grace, who's aged 10 in Staffordshire, asks the same thing. So I was talking earlier on about the IUCN Red List. They've looked at about 1,600 different species, and 31% of those were endangered or critically endangered. So what's that? That's about 40,000 species, which is just horrifying, isn't it? A third of all species that have been studied end up being endangered or critically endangered. But 116,000, that's nothing. There could be 8 million, there could be 20 million different species of animals on the planet. So it's going to be a much higher number than that. Happy 8th birthday to Elsie, who's been watching every day with her brother Billy in Redditch. Hello, you both. We have lots. Hi from Germany. Hello, Judith. Judith Survival Beer Squeaky. That is the greatest name ever. Charles asks, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Quite a lot, I think. What else have we got? The Bounds twins, saying they did a quiz for our family on deadly 16 endangered animals. Amazing. Daniel says, have you ever swum with bull sharks? Lots and lots and lots. You might have seen my live series on sharks last year. What is the most efficient hunter? Birds. Ben Taylor. I'm guessing you're asking what is the most efficient bird hunter. That's a tricky one. What's that going to be? I mean, actually, peregrine falcons, for example, fail on quite a lot of their attacks. I would have thought sparrowhawks would be more efficient than them, but it's probably going to be something like an egret or a heron. They stalk for long periods of time and then grab a hold of a frog or a fish. You don't see them miss very often. Okay, what's our next question? Isabel asked, age 9, what's the most endangered sea creature? Could be something like the vaquita, the world's smallest porpoise, which occurs in the Sea of Cortez, and that is there's someone else here, David Madge, asking the same thing. The vaquita, down to probably about 30 or 40 animals, and that is really awful, because they are such beautiful, such cute animals, and so unusual and unique. What else do we have? Got some cracking questions coming in. Nick and Ariana in Cardiff. My mum's from Ecuador. We've seen the loss of primary rainforest there. What animal is most threatened by forest clearance? So it's going to be an animal that would struggle to survive in secondary forest or in cleared forest. So the classic would be the harpy eagle. That's one that is always going to be super threatened by forest clearance. And then jaguars as well are obviously another animal that is going to really struggle. What else have we got? We have a question here from Jacob, aged 8, and Thomas, aged 6, who would love to hear our thoughts on the white-tailed eagles that have been reintroduced to the country recently. They have been spotted in Norfolk and Somerset, where our family are, and their wingspan is so enormous. Well, that is just brilliant. And if you do have any sightings of white-tailed sea eagles in England, head to the Sea Eagle England website, because you can log them there. The reintroduction of white-tailed sea eagles in Scotland has been hugely successful, and they are one of the most dramatic animals to see. And just as an idea why they are so dramatic, this is the skull of our very own buzzard, which, as I said, we have 300,000 pairs of, 300,000 birds here in the UK. And this is the skull of a white-tailed sea eagle. It is massive, and look at the size of that beak. Though this is an animal that ideally feeds on fish, which it snatches from the surface of water, it can feed on mammals as well, also feeding on carrion and other detritus. But it's quite common up in Scotland for people to see one of these, a buzzard, and go, "Wow, I saw an eagle!" So much so that Scottish people call this the tourist's eagle. But when you see the two of them side by side, you can see how nuts that is. White-tailed sea eagles are sometimes described as looking like a flying barn door because they have such a massive wingspan. I really hope that the reintroduction on the Isle of Wight works, and that we will extend it to other parts of England and of Wales as well, because they are just such dramatic birds, and so much to be gained from having a predator like that in our landscape. Happy birthday, Zachary, who's 8 today and wants to be a herpetologist when he's older. Good luck, Zachary. What an amazing way that will be to spend your life. That is absolutely fantastic. Charlie, aged 5, asks what's the most endangered animal in the UK. I've got quite a few people asking that, actually. Who else has asked that question? I will come back to... Oh, yes, Alex, aged 11, from Plymouth. Freya and Lyle asked the same thing. Looking at bugs, things like the horrid ground weaver and the ladybird spider, super endangered. The Scottish wildcat, of course, as well, is a really iconic endangered animal that we have here in this country. And there are lots of programs at the moment to try and bring them into captivity, to breed them up, to reintroduce them back into the wild, which kind of has to happen soon, because depending on who you listen to, there could be as few as 30 of them left in the wild in Scotland. Someone saying my favourite, who's that? Fulford football rules okay. My favourite bird is a blue-footed booby. Yes, I can certainly see that. They are absolutely amazing animals. Liz Hodgett says, I have subtitles on, and when you say pangolins, it comes up as penguins. That's probably just me not enunciating properly. I'm very sorry about that, Liz. Holly Douglas, I think he's on the Thames. Well spotted, Holly. Absolutely I am, yes. We have lots and lots of people. What is the fastest bird on the planet, from Oscar, age 7? Well, the swifts that I just heard flying above me, they're right above my head right now. No, you can't hear them. They have a sort of sound that goes shree, 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 shree. Are the fastest of the flying birds. Obviously, the peregrine falcon, when it is in stoop, is the fastest creature ever known to have lived. But it's kind of not really flying, is it? It's more like controlled falling. Sailing Fast keeps asking, look behind me. But I'm not going to fall for that. You've already tried with the spider on the shoulder trick, and I didn't fall for that. Harry Dunbar, spider on your head. Come on, Harry. Seriously, try a little bit harder than that. Wow, loads and loads of questions coming in. Okay, let's move on to... Dave, aged 56 and a quarter in Cornwall, asks, is it safe to feed bread to ducks and swans? Dave, you're going to get me in so much trouble. So the advice of most of the conservation organisations in this country is that feeding particularly stale white bread to ducks and swans is really damaging to them. It prevents them foraging naturally. It can encourage the overgrowth of algae and things in the water that they live in. I think, be sensible. So we feed our swans with bird seed or with poultry food, and we sometimes feed them defrosted peas and lettuce. But yeah, just be sensible. Think about, would this be something that I would want to eat myself? And if the answer is no, then don't give it to an animal. What else have we got? Oh, Lottie, age 11 from Wimborne. What animal is most affected by climate change? So, super complex. There are loads and loads of animals that are being affected by climate change, and usually in ways that are way too complex for us to manage to figure out properly. As an example, a lot of salmon, for example, are all of a sudden migrating earlier or later upstream because the conditions of the streams that they're in, the temperature might have risen, or in some cases even fallen. It's likely that almost all wild animals are going to be affected to some degree with climate change. So working up in the Arctic, I was speaking to people that have been, or their generations of families have been in the same area for thousands of years. They have a really strong oral history of how their part of the world works. And they were all of a sudden seeing insects in their world that they've never seen before, and having fish in their seas that they don't even have names for. So the world is changing incredibly quickly. And how it will change with climate change is something that we are still working out. There's something that I want to share with you. So I just gave you a quick glance at our badgers. I promise I'll show you more of them next week. But one of my neighbours has sent me a photo from something that they saw in woods not a million miles away from here, which is a badger, but not as we know it. It was this. It was a white badger, a leucistic or possibly albino badger. I have never seen its like before, and it kind of got me thinking. Any of you out there got any photos that are unusual, unique, of animals that you see on your patch? Send them in either to this for my live lessons, or you could send them into the CBBC website for my Deadly DIY series, which I'm doing, which is kind of similar to this, but which is going to be running for the next 10 weeks. Loads and loads of questions and answers about our local wildlife, about wildlife in lockdown, and there'll be a deadly edge to it all as well. So probably be some bits and pieces from the Deadly archives that you have never seen before, including lots of bloopers and bits and pieces where I completely mess up, which again haven't been seen before. This is a good question from Sue Harper. Are there any signs that animals are evolving faster in order to make themselves more adaptable in these difficult times? Yes, there are, absolutely. So one of the best examples, I'm not seeing any good science on this, but there's no question from the people that I've worked with, particularly in Africa, is elephants evolving to not have tusks or have smaller tusks. So a lot of the big male tusker elephants that had the biggest tusks were the ones that were targeted by poachers and by hunters first. And all of a sudden, people started noticing that those big tuskers were seen much less often, and people were thinking, well, maybe we just hunted them all out. But then they started realizing that baby elephants were being born and not developing as big tusks, and it became clear that the gene for having large tusks was effectively being selected out of various populations of elephants. That's one. Another one is up in Finland. Tawny owls come in several different colours. The lighter shades tend to do better when it gets very snowy because they have already kind of inbuilt camouflage. But in more recent years, darker coloured tawnies are becoming much, much more prevalent and much, much more numerous because there is less snow around in the winter. So yeah, there's lots of evidence for animals adapting very, very fast for the change in conditions that are happening. Whether it will be able to happen for all animals is a whole other story. And certainly we mustn't let ourselves think that animals are capable of evolving to get around all the problems that we're creating for them, because evolution, generally speaking, is a slow process. It's much slower in animals that take longer to regenerate. And, great white shark might not mature sexually until 15 or even 30 years of age. It's going to take a very, very long time for them to evolve. We cannot count on evolution, happening fast enough to solve our problems for us. What else can we finish with? Adam Waller, who's 7, asks, has the gharials situation in India improved? No, there's still only a few hundred of those remarkable, crazy-looking animals. Any of you who don't know what a gharial looks like, please look them up online, because it's one of the oddest-looking animals, like a crocodile that's kind of got its nose stuck in a car boot, and the car's driven away, and it's just gone whoop, and elongated. That long, thin snout. Perfectly adapted for snapping through the water and catching fish, but yes, they are very much struggling at the moment. Right, my new messages are taking time to download, and I've just realised that actually I'm way over time. I've already been talking for 40 minutes. You guys must be bored senseless. So let me then wrap things up. If you are not watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on Facebook or Twitter, please do head to my YouTube site. I've set up a YouTube Steve Backshall Official, and I've been putting loads of videos on there. Some of them are way back to when I started my career over 20 years ago with National Geographic, and there are ones where I look about 10 years old presenting programs. I've got a whole bunch of stuff there from outtakes from Expedition. So when I was on Expedition with my amazing team. Happy 12th birthday to Julia. My things have come back on again. Amazing. So head to my YouTube site, subscribe to it, and you'll get a bell icon every time. Hit the bell icon. Arden Fogarty, 10 years old in Australia. Hello, Arden. How are you? Happy birthday. I'll keep uploading as many new things as I possibly can. Hello to 2nd Durrington Scouts. Hello and happy 20th birthday to Louisa. I'm not bored, says Alice. Well, thank you very much. Well, I'll just carry on talking for another couple of hours then, shall I? Christian saying we would actually love for this to be an hour. Well, thank you very, very much. I really, really appreciate that. So you all... Okay, I haven't got a theme for next week yet, so if any of you have got anything that you particularly would like me to talk about, if there's anything that you're missing from your biology homeschooling, or something that you very much like a Q&A like this to be themed around, whether it's an environment, a habitat, or some aspect of biology that you want to hear more about, then get in touch. A massive shout out, incidentally, to Gracie, to Alfie, and to Sarah. Sorry, I hope you have watched to the end of this, or you won't have seen that. Another massive shout out to Ollie and Emily. Hello to Toby and Fraser. Hi, you both. Really, really, and to Olivia, aged 11 in Norwich. I've completely lost my train of thought. Happy 11th birthday to Mia, and why the mic? Eve H10 asks. It's really windy, Eve. It's really windy. I've even got my pop shield on the wrong side of the microphone to try and keep the wind away. So this time next week, 09:30, I will be back again answering your questions. If you've got any things that you'd like me to do for a theme, then send them in. But until then, all the very best from me, Stevie B!